Hello, I'm Conrad Som from Mockingbird, and I, for about 20 years, held the decathlon record at my college.
Impressive. And I'm Gyi Sakalakis from Attorney Sync, and today I made a delicious lentil and bean and ham hock soup. Gotta try it. Highly recommend.
For the spring, doesn't this feel like an autumn, like it's
cold
and
here.
miserable outside?
It is cold
All right.
and miserable out here.
Okay.
For you folks in the Midwest, northern Midwest, yikes.
All right. Well, there you go. Lentil bean soup.
Welcome to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing, where Conrad and I, you know what's funny, Conrad? I was, as Adam was saying, hey, say a little something about the show, I went to the website. You know what this show's all about? It's jam-packed with tips and tricks for attracting more clients and business to your law practice.
Listen, Gyi and I always talk about kind of the similar stuff. There's always some technology bent. We haven't brought you anything that I would call truly revolutionary for a while. Until today. Stay tuned to the end of our segment. We're going to come up with something that Gyi called so Avo-esque even Conrad would like it.
It's true. And most importantly, though, Conrad.
Yeah.
If I gave you the following options.
Oh, no.
Text message. Phone call. Email. Facebook Messenger. Which of those methods of communication is your favorite?
Gyi is carefully pointing out to you that I am 50 plus because my answer, by proven statistical testing, is Facebook Messenger. Don't call me. Don't text me. Facebook Messenger.
That's actually, I'm actually apologize because maybe I shared something that you didn't want to know. Facebook Messenger is the only place that you can get Conrad within seconds. That's the real Conrad there. So
that's awesome. You can get Conrad within seconds. That's what I want. Thanks a lot, dude.
If you want to get a hold of Conrad, hit him up on Facebook Messenger.
Okay. At next episode, we'll be sharing Gyi's cell phone.
Well, what else are we talking about today?
Holy cow. We are, as always, starting with the news. We're then going to fulfill a promise that we told you before, how to segment your audience and how to look at important traffic instead of all the garbage. We've been talking about why traffic is a terrible metric. How do we look at traffic from a positive perspective? And then, I'm not going to give any of this away, what I believe to be a great friction marketing approach to destroying relationships and building a few good ones with people within your own market. Stay tuned for something that is really, truly out of the box.
Let's go!
Welcome to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing, teaching you how to promote, market, and make fat stacks for your legal practice. Here on Legal Talk Network.
Welcome to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. Gyi and I are a little hopped up. I'm not sure what it is, but he's spicy. I am full of caffeine. We're going to start with the news. Hey, Gyi, you and I have given various conflicting directives on AI-generated content and SEO. What is the latest coming out of Mountain View?
Well, this is as reported at Search Engine Land. I think originally reported by Aleda from John Mueller's presentation at Search Central Live in Madrid. Short story, the Google quality raters assess whether content is AI generated. And in fact, specifically, there's a section that talks about AI-generated content as receiving the lowest rating. And so what does this mean? Conrad, what does it mean that the quality raters are now being instructed to rate AI content negatively?
Well, I think there are two elements to this. Number one, we have said previously on this pod that most of your content is so banal that some of the AI content is actually better and therefore will rank. We also posited that it was impossible to distinguish between AI generated content and human generated content. I still believe that may somewhat be the case. I know you think when you see it, you sometimes know it, right?
That's the thing. That's the whole point of all of this. And it's going to be true with social media, and it's going to be true with all this stuff. If you can tell, if a person can tell, it's not going to help you.
Right.
If they can't, it can certainly help you. And so figuring out the difference, I think that's the whole trick. But, look, needless to say, it was funny. I was looking at our YouTube channel shorts the other day. One of our top viewed YouTube shorts is one of my proclamation that we rank for ChatGPT for legal marketing with a completely copy paste job from GPT, and it ranks number 1 for that query. And so, and I would say if you read that, I think most people would say that sounds AI generated, and yet still it ranks. And so to me, it's like, look, you're taking a risk if you're copying and pasting ChatGPT to your website. We've seen sites get burned for it over and over again. Google's trying to ferret it out. And so if you're going to use it, it better not be able to tell, and people better not be able to tell. That's the short answer.
So the people who are content developers, David Aredo, Lexicon Legal Content, John Reed, Blue 7 as well. You guys are probably happy to see this. It'll be interesting to see how this actually takes place in terms of actual results, right?
I mean, my thing is go look at the helpful content guidelines, right?
Sure,
you can. I think it's distinguishable. I think you can use the AI and still add in those helpful content items, and then it gets very difficult to distinguish.
Okay. So you're saying just pure blather from AI problematic. AI edited
plus expert.
Yes, different. Okay, I like it.
Totally.
I don't disagree with that. All right, moving on to more stuff about Google. TikTok taking on Google Maps. Talk to me what the major new change with TikTok.
Yeah, this is as reported at TechCrunch if you want to check it out. But TikTok takes on Google Maps by surfacing reviews in the comments tab. And so, long story short, it's like a local review play on TikTok. Where TikTok lands in its current issues, who knows? But it is obvious to me, even maybe more so than GPTs, which people might disagree with me about. TikTok is a bigger competitor in this context than ChatGPT or any other site if they can get it right. If they can get local right. Because I think Google's underlying local business data, that's the thing they've got that no one's got. But could TikTok partner with somebody like Apple? Still not Google.
It's not an unassailable competitive advantage, right?
It's not an unassailable competitive advantage. Well, MBA language there, yes.
Sorry. That's good.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for. So I think if they get their issues sorted out, I think they could be the real competitor.
And
in this context, right? Local business, testimonials, reviews, that kind of stuff.
Comments.
Yeah,
I'm trying to segue into our next point.
Yeah. Okay. Comments. Sure. About comments.
Hey, Gyi, could you comment on paid comments on YouTube?
I will comment on paid comments. This from Brandon Ponzo on LinkedIn, sharing this really, we'll put a link to this. I'll kind of paraphrase here. He's on YouTube. He's watching a very popular series surrounded by Jubilee Media. And there's a pinned comment, not a YouTube ad, but a pinned comment from Morgan & Morgan. And it's a direct response ad. Like it's a direct response ad with a link. So partnering with the publisher, the creative, or the platform, whatever you want to call it in this instance, for visibility. Now, I saw this and I was like, 1, that's really creative. 2, I would love to see the numbers on this. And 3, what an opportunity. And to me, I immediately thought local business play. Like if you can find videos that your local community's into, channels your local community's into, pinning comments there. And I bet you get a pretty reasonable rate for it right now. I mean, like we were talking, we'd have to assume that it was in some kind of CPM on views, but it's not skippable. It's right there. Strong, potentially.
Yeah. I mean,
but again, I
what
don't
a great-
have any numbers on it.
Not yet. We'll see. We'll come.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. We'll come back.
Stay tuned. All right.
Listen, one of the things that Gyi and I like to defrock and talk about and poke fun of is the dirty, underhanded, gross marketing tactics that are undertaken by people in the legal industry. I would thoroughly recommend a listen to Brian Glass's podcast about his experience. He dug deep on CaseConnect. So we'll put a link in the comments if you want to think about and get queasy about some of the ethical concerns around some of the marketing opportunities out there right now. And finally, I'm sad that Ken Hardison didn't take our bait and invite Gyi to Pilma to record LHLM. I will be in Denver at Pilma last week of April. If you're around, would love to see you. If you want to have dinner, let me know.
I'd like to have dinner.
Yeah, but you're not invited. Okay. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, keep the conversation going, leave us a comment, paid or otherwise. And as we get into the next segment, another episode you might like, The Lawyer's Guide to Conversions.
All right, listeners. So as we promised last episode, Conrad and I are going to walk through how to segment audiences. And it's really, as I listen back, and please feel free to correct me, really segmenting down to where the qualified lead traffic is coming from. But before we get there, as we were talking in the pre-show, it's really important to talk about what do we mean by qualified traffic in the first place. Conrad, when you start thinking about qualified traffic, where do you start?
Well, the key here is this is someone who might be in the market to hire you, right? And you can build nuances around what that actually means. But this might be one of those examples of where it's easier to talk about the contrapositive than the positive. People who are not geographically in your market, who literally you are prohibited from working from because you are not barred in Wisconsin, are not part of your addressable market, right? That should not be something that you consider or look into when you're talking about the success of your site. And that becomes like there's a geographic component. The other way I would look at this, Gyi, is what kind of content are they looking at, right? So we've been very, very critical of the stupid content that exists on some website. You guys have heard us talk about the Brooklyn style pizza ad nauseum. For loyal listeners, you'll remember that. And the site that got a whole bunch of content of traffic for Brooklyn style pizza, and their SEOs were celebrating it, and we thought that was a bunch of crap. And so there's a content element to this as well. And you're right, that really is intent. So it's intent plus geography to me.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense as a starting point. Some lawyers might push back and say, oh, well, hey, I might actually get referrals or something from out of state, depending on the nature of the type of practice that I have. But I think generally I'm with you. Most local law firms, like the lion's share of organic traffic is going to be, in state, in market, probably even tighter than that for a really local law firm.
The obvious example of that is like the DUI in Las Vegas, right? Mm-hmm. I went to Vegas, got fucking hammered, and now I'm at home in Sheboygan, and I'm like, I need to hire a DUI lawyer in Las Vegas. Right. But that's the exception, right? It's the exception rather than the rule.
And I'm with you on those, and I'm certainly with you on intent. And again, this is where things are tricky, because if you really want to look at different intent data, you're really stuck from an organic standpoint. You're stuck with Search Console data. You can say, I assume that this page is ranking, and that's why it's generating this traffic on GA. But Search Console is really the only place you're getting organic query data. And so I'd be thinking about that in the context of relevant intent, right? And that's also where you segment brand, non-brand. And specifically there, again, because I didn't want to gloss over like the how-tos, because that's really what we were talking about. And so at least from a traffic standpoint, for me, if I'm like, look, I want to see qualified intent. I'm looking at non-brand queries, maybe that include maybe lawyer and use a regex. We're not gonna have time to teach you how to do regex, but go look up a regex where you're looking at, if you're just in Search Console, you're not exporting Search Console data anywhere, like you're looking at it in the interface. A regex that includes like attorney, law firm. I'd also be looking for like the practice specific queries. That's the way to look at it from an intent standpoint and organic from a query standpoint. But my thing is, and this is good. This is a good starting place. The way that the next level, it's not that you don't do those two segments, right. But I actually want to see qualified consultation traffic. So that's kind of right. Because guess what else happens? Let me ask you a question. Yeah, guess what else you see? That example in Vegas that you used, that shows up because it's marked qualified consultation. And so you see, person called us from Vegas. Yeah. And they qualified. That's something. Now, again, you also get to see that maybe those are one-offs and that the 80% is coming from this other thing. But once you segment by qualified, that there's some signal of quality. To your point, it's one step further in the journey, because you're actually like, this person, the firm agrees that this was a qualified lead. That's really valuable to see.
Well, let me walk that backwards, because I think it's let me summarize it, and then I want to dig a little bit deeper on what you're suggesting. What I talked about was really kind of an old school GA approach to like, I'm going to only look at people in Illinois who are looking at pages about divorce or whatever it might be, because the rest of the crap, the like, what is a stop sign and 7 things to do to keep your car safe in the winter, like no one's really looking for you anyway. And that traffic is rarely in your state. So I'm talking about like kind of looking at that segment. You're saying build a completely different segment where we're really looking at people who we have decided to have a consultation with, right? I think so. My issue with that, although I think there's a different value, my issue is the volume that you're getting out of that is going to be 4 or 5% of what the other segment actually looks like, right? Because
that's always the challenge. Data scarcity is always a challenge.
Yep.
But I'm not. Again, my thing is not to look at it at necessarily scale. Is to be like, are there any patterns that emerge? Are there any traffic patterns that are emerging based on that are actually qualified? Like, is there something there to why these are qualified, where some of these other sources, channels, yada yada aren't, or they're not converting at the same rate? Yep. And I would do one more. I would also do the same thing for actual cases. Like see if in some instances, maybe not in PI, but in some practice areas, you might actually see some interesting comparisons between looking at it all 3 ways. Just intent, non-brand intent, and location geography, qualified location geography, signed cases geography. And on signed cases, if you can attach actual client value, again, maybe in the family context, maybe in criminal defense context, you can actually get closer to looking at profitability by channel, and how that works in the context of location, because geography can matter a lot for certain practice areas.
So I think I want to glom onto this concept that you talked about, taking that segment and trying to figure out what is unique about them, right? Like are there, because you're kind of looking in the rearview mirror there instead of forwards. Like, what are the things? What were the elements of my marketing? What was the content that they saw that was
the messaging? Unique? What messaging actually converted?
This type of stuff is fascinating. And I'll tell you this: if you have a really solid CRM system, like say HubSpot, you can look at that historically, right? So it's not just what happened in the most previous session. You can actually go back to multiple sessions, multiple marketing channels. We hit them on email. You can have a full picture of who that person is, and look at that historically and see what happens. I have an interesting anecdote. I wasn't thinking about this when we were kind of doing the show notes for this, but I know, Gyi, that if someone looked at our 10 commandments page, which is kind of hidden in our nav, but it's the why we exist, what we do this for, what we believe in. It's kind of core values, fluffy stuff, ethos, reason for being content. If someone looks at that content, actually, I don't know this number. I do know that over a third of the people who have contacted us have looked at that page. That's amazing.
That's valuable. That's valuable audience segmentation.
So it's valuable audience segmentation, but it also now can influence our content strategy. Like we should lean more into that type of stuff because it's important to people. And you can then build out your marketing by looking in the rearview mirror of the people who did actually choose to contact you. I really like that.
Yeah. And so this is, we spent more time I think we wanted to on the definition stage, but I think it was important. Again, we want it to be tactical here. The key here is that you have to have some tool to mark things qualified. Now, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, you're not sophisticated, like, yes, you could try to spend a weekend to try to figure out how to do this in like Google Sheets or something. But let me save you some time and heartache. Go sign up for a CRM or go call your current company, whatever you're using for practice management, see what their thoughts are on CRM. But somewhere, the only way we ever get to this audience segment is that we are keeping track of what's qualified and sending it back to analytics. Because if we're going to do this in analytics, that's the only way to do it. Something has to say, we have to be able to get to a point, so the next step is, now you're into event tracking. And again, there's a lot of different ways to do this. The way that I'd be thinking about it is event tracking in Google Analytics 4 through Google Tag Manager. You need to create specific tags for every lead action you want to track, right? Form submissions, content downloads. Now, those aren't necessarily going to be immediately qualified leads, but they certainly need to be tracked at that stage because if you're doing some kind of nurture campaign and they eventually sign up, that all needs to be properly tracked. So this can get complicated, right? And that was kind of my thing with all this is I'm like, we got to talk about triggers, event parameters. I think some of this stuff is probably going to be over most folks' heads. And so when I started to think about this, I think maybe the real value of the conversation overall is to say, hey, look, if you're convinced that there's value in looking at your audience segments the way that Conrad talked about at the outset, go talk to somebody about getting this implemented for you because you're probably going to struggle to do this yourself, right?
It's gotten more complicated for sure.
I mean, certainly do it through GA4 and Tag Manager. You think the average lawyer knows how to, drop, the code snippets in the right spot?
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think so.
Fair point. I just don't want to come across as, hey, hire us, right?
I know.
Create. But this is stuff. The
do you want to keep going?
Intelligence that you get out of this is so valuable, right? Or can be so valuable.
Yeah, do you think that we should keep going through this process, or do you think it's better just to be like, you're right, there's just no way? Because
can you high level this in 3 minutes?
Yeah,
go
high level. We talked event tracking, set up event tracking through GA4 via Google Tag Manager. Integrate your CRM data with GA4's data. So, you got to capture user IDs. You got to map the fields to your CRM. You got to make sure that the data import in GA4 is configured appropriately. Create custom dimensions and metrics in GA4. There's a bit of stuff in there, but I'll keep it high level. And then you can create the audience segment, right? And now you create a specific audience segment with their builder tool, and then you're off and running.
And that's complicated because you're taking that conversion data and applying that to GA4. That becomes, I think that might be that level, that advanced level of where most people can't. Yeah. But I do think within you can look at pages. You can look at like that intent and geography. I think at a minimum.
You can GA4. You can look at geography. So if you've connected Search Console data to GA4,
right?
That's a good thing too. I think most lawyers could probably handle that, right? Connect your Search Console data to GA4,
right?
And then you want to create an audience segment where you can look at you need dimensions and metrics to look at the things that Conrad just mentioned. So you're going to be looking at You want to be able to filter by geography. You probably want to filter by, at least at the state level, depending on where you are. You might want to filter at a much more localized level.
Yep.
You know,
if you're in a state with like Ohio with lots of big cities, right? Ohio's not good enough, right?
And then if you got the Search Console data, then you can also layer in, hey, show me impression and click data only for these non-brand queries to get to filter brand out.
That I think should be within the realm of possible for many of our listeners.
And we've talked about this many times. You can also filter by local pack if you're using UTM parameters. So you can layer that in.
These what we've just talked about are not that difficult, right?
What do you think about call rail, filtering call rail first-time callers into GA? Do you think that's something they could handle?
No. Great way to do it. But again, like I'm trying to put this into two buckets. One is your overall traffic, and two, what you're taking, Gyi, is really pushing stuff back into GA that is conversion based. I think those are two different buckets that are worthy looking at. My biggest thing here is I'm tired of listening to people talk about traffic and how we're getting traffic and seeing all these traffic graphs of up and to the right. This was really spawned by we did a review, and I can't remember if we did this on the pod or not. This was Jonathan Perkins' website. This was some conversation going on about Jonathan Perkins. I don't know Jonathan Perkins, so I apologize, but it was their dog bite page getting tens of thousands of views on their dog bite page, and it seems like a good thing, right? But ultimately, there was 15,000 views, 15,000 sessions coming out of India, right? So,
if you're a lot of dog bites,
must be a lot of dog bites looking for people in English, looking for lawyers in English about the most dangerous dog breeds right? Like it's just not a thing. I'm hoping this segment will get you further down the path or further away from your agency who's telling you that you're doing well because you're getting a lot of traffic, right? When that traffic isn't ever going to hire you. And so I think you as an individual law firm can get there with Search Console data brought into GA4 and building filters around that. That is achievable. Hey, listeners, if you want to see what this is like step by step, we have put a video together on Lunch Hour Legal Marketing on Facebook, and we'll walk you through exactly how to walk through each of these steps.
Can we put it on LinkedIn too?
And we can put it on LinkedIn because otherwise I will never see it.
And we're back, and we have a very nice comment from YouTube from Rick Allen 9099 that LSA isn't available for lawyers in Canada. Conrad, what would you recommend to Rick Allen 9099 with no LSAs in Canada?
Well, I would campaign for a drop on the tariffs on LSAs that have been implemented by the U.S. government.
That's strong suggestion.
I was trying to be funny.
I don't know if that will help advertise.
Here. You want some non-political feedback? Rick, what you should do is watch and wait, because LSAs are a great way for Google to make unreasonable profits. The first mover advantage that we saw in the United States for LSAs was very, very real. And if you're one of the early movers, it will really, really work out for you, because they're going to try and prove to the market that it's an effective tool. And they do that by over-indexing on the cost effectiveness initially, driving a whole bunch of hype, and then driving up prices when people aren't really paying attention.
You know what? I didn't research this, but I wonder if there's a regulatory issue. I wonder if pay per lead is permissible in Canada. Or if that's probably maybe province by province.
Good question.
I don't know the answer to that one either, but that's maybe someone will shout us out. Well, if you have the answer to that question, head on over to YouTube and drop a reply in the comments and tell us what you know. Otherwise, feel free to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We greatly appreciate it. Or hit us up on LinkedIn, where I would say I spend more time than Conrad.
Gyi and Tony Albrecht are hanging out on LinkedIn while I'm out with all of the middle-aged 50-plus people talking about where their kids are going to college.
On Facebook Messenger. Okay.
That's right. All right, everyone. Some of you know that I started my career sending a middle finger to the entire legal community as Avo's lead, and at the time, only marketing guy. Avo was very cool in that we rated on a scale of 0 to 10, and I believe down towards the 0 to 3 rating, it was like extreme caution. We rated lawyers.
If it can be rated, it will be rated.
That is brought to you by, and I'm blanking on his name, the guy who started
Rich
Expedia.
Barton.
Rich Barton, Expedia, and then Zillow, the founder of both Expedia and Zillow. If it can be rated, it will be rated. Rich put his money behind Avo, and he put his general counsel, Mark Britton, at the helm. Actually, it's backwards. Mark put himself at the helm and then took Rich's money and put it behind Avo. But it was a really fun ride rating lawyers. And I haven't seen someone do this so interestingly until recently. I got something on LinkedIn, by the way, Gyi. I am occasionally on LinkedIn. This was not
and look,
on Facebook
dark social
Messenger.
at work here. Dark social outreach for content
This is
promotion.
dark social working. So yeah, I got hit up by John Socha, who is the COO at Hemmet Law Group. And what Hemmet Law Group is, they're a family law firm in Washington State, my home state, not my now home state of Washington. And lo and behold, they rated all of the family law firms in Washington State. They got the people from Clio, who did the Clio Legal Trends Report. They engaged with them, and they did mystery shopping of all of their competitors, and they rated their competitors in Washington State, including Elise Bowie Family Law, who came in at number 2, and 2 people who got a 0 out of 100, Boggs, Ortuno, and Woods, Brangwyn, and Bratton.
Oh, man. Oh, I'm reading them all off. Yikes.
Well, I mean, this is a stir of the pot.
Let's just do the whole,
tactic.
Just go through the whole list. Just read off everybody. You want to know, top firm by county.
Friction marketing at its best. And I thought to myself, holy cow, this is very interesting and fascinating. So first I wanted to learn more about the actual results. But I think at the bigger picture level, you know, this was a really interesting marketing, I don't want to stunt. Let's call it a marketing stunt. I'm not sure if it's a tactic. It's more of a stunt.
PR stunt.
It is a PR stunt.
Edward
now, interestingly,
Bernays.
very conspicuously, Gyi, what do you think? Which firm was conspicuously absent from their list of third-party rated family law firms in Washington State?
Well, I was going to ask you what the authors of the report were rated on their own rating system, and what's the answer?
They're not on the list. I asked John why you didn't rate your own firm, and he wrote, "We didn't think anyone would believe us if we ranked ourselves." Clearly, John.
Well, not if you ranked yourselves first. But they have some objective criteria here, right? I mean, was there? I didn't go deep on the methodology, but it seemed like there's some objective criteria, right? What did they do, Conrad?
It was very objective. They and again, they used a third party. They used Clio, which I'm not sure that's part of Clio's business model. So I'm kind of curious as to how that came about. But they did 400 mystery shops and rated firms on responsiveness, thoroughness, consultations, were they offered, how that worked, is an attorney handling it, availability of pricing information, the services available, and the overall experience. And they scored them on those different elements. And I thought as a big picture, what an interesting way to torch some relationships with people in your market, but also to build relationships perhaps by highlighting people who do a good job. I mean, you and I get this all the time. We have podcasters who list their favorite legal podcasts, right? And they often put themselves at the top of the list.
So I got an idea here too, by the way.
Go.
I just scrolled down to the bottom of this thing.
Go.
Tools of the trade page. We recommend Clio, Haymarket, and Smith AI. I wonder if this is a content collaboration.
This
genius.
Brought to you by these tools of the trade. This may be financed by, I was thinking.
I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, and again, I don't. it's still it's an objective criteria. I think it's you talk about creative ways to get your name out there, and with other identifiable brands in legal,
Right.
pretty strong.
Yeah. I mean,
to your point, and this is the question. What's the impact on local relationships?
Yeah. Well, it is fascinating to think that, I think here's my take. And I love this. I love friction marketing. You guys know this if you've ever heard me say anything. I've torched all sorts of people because I think it is damaging to law firms. That is something that I've stood for a long time. Gyi, you and I are kind of in the same space. What's the chicken? Who are the people? Lawyers of Distinction is the greatest example.
The chicken. Zippy? Come on, you already forgot about Zippy?
No, I know Zippy, but I couldn't remember the name of the firm.
Okay.
Like there's a bunch of bullshit things. And so I really deeply appreciate this. Building relationships with kind of the high-minded. I mean, there's a reason that you and now I'm sounding very self-aggrandizing, but there's a reason that you and I competitors
first time for everything.
Yes, I would rank myself first on my list of favorite legal marketing agencies.
Me too, man.
No, but there's a reason that we get along because we kind of believe in this, and so I think this is actually pretty genius. And there's a couple things that come out of it. One of the best things, and I would encourage you guys to think about this differently. We have told you guys to go mystery shop yourselves. But one of the things that happens when you only look internally is you don't know how bad you are. And you don't know where there's opportunities for improvement. So actually mystery shopping your competition at this level of scale, if you want to make your intake experience, your overall experience much better, the best way to do that is to undertake a deep analysis of what other people are doing, right? I think so that there's a ton of competitive information that can make you a better firm. So not just mystery shopping yourself, but mystery shopping your competitors. Now that will piss all the intake people off because they're going to get a whole bunch of qualified leads that are never going to call you, right? But I think this is really fascinating. Or you just download this report for the cost of an email. Cost of an email, right? Yeah, so you're now stuck in Hemmet's email quagmire forever.
They'll let you unsubscribe, I'm sure. So it is a law firm after all.
It is a law firm, so they will do the right thing. But I think it's particularly genius. Gyi, do you have any? I mean, do you have any concerns about this? You always raise the ethical factor when we're talking about creative marketing.
Off the top of my head, I think they're clear with their methodology and the objective criteria they're using. They're certainly entitled to their opinion, right? Their opinion of who the best firms are.
Section 230.
I think the thing I always wonder is net, right? So on the one hand, it's like this is a seemingly authoritative piece that's out in the marketplace. At least some consumers are probably going to see this. It might be good affinity or brand affinity or brand at least awareness for Hemmet. I don't know net how rating your peers plays in this particular community. We've talked about it in ours. It happens in ours all the time. I guess I'd say net. I think just thinking about it, I'm like, this is a bold move. It might not be your style, but I think for this firm is with the way they're presenting it, it's a very powerful move from a unique, creative. I mean, here we are talking about it. The other thing I was going to look up while I didn't have enough time because I have all this two-factor authentication. But is this resource getting linked to? It's getting linked to yet?
I'm sure there's a link play to this. In fact, if you'd like to view the Hemmet report, we'll link to it in the podcast show notes. There you go.
Guaranteed to get one link.
There's organic link building for you right there. Let me ask you a question, Gyi. I would like you to channel your inner Mark Britton and answer this question. Hey, why did you choose to rate all of the law firms in Washington State?
Get the people talking.
Well, no. I'm a consumer. Let's play this. hey, I'm thinking about hiring Hemmet Law Group. Why did you go about rating all of your competitors?
I don't know what you're trying to do.
Let me bring Mark Britton back into my head. I spent way too much time with the man. A lot more than you did, Gyi. I thought that was going to be an easy layup across the plate.
I totally missed it. I don't know.
Sorry, I should have put this in the show notes so it looked like we were on the same page. The answer I asked John what they were doing, and he said, I hated seeing people get ripped off because they didn't know what to look for. If it stops even one more person from hiring the wrong firm, it'll be the best money I ever spent.
What a kind,
magnanimous, generous perspective. But that's the right positioning on this, right? We want to just make sure that you, new consumer of divorce legal services, knows what you're doing when you're trying to hire a law firm. And we happen to have written the book and built the algorithm on what it takes to be really good at doing that.
And by the way, we're not on this list. We've transcended.
That is problematic.
We have transcended the list. We're in position 0, but we didn't want to report position 0 because that wouldn't be fair.
He did say they will put them on their list next year. So this is intended to be, I believe, an annual endeavor.
Well, and with enough PR around it, maybe it inspires these other firms to up their game in these categories.
Yeah. And make the industry better.
Then he accomplished exactly what he was trying to accomplish.
There's Mark. I knew you were behind there somewhere. All right. All right, everyone. You have spent the last 40 or so minutes. Hopefully, we left you with something truly inspirational. I loved this last tactic that we talked about.
I like the YouTube comment pin. I think that's...
You like? Okay.
That's out there.
Okay. So out there, two out there's. Brought to you by Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. Until next 2 weeks, Lunch Hour Legal Marketing out.
Money makes a it makes a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round.